Everybody for coming this morning. I'm sure we'll probably have some more people shuffling in, taking their kids to school. That temperatures this morning, that's moving a little slower. So first, I want to thank Yampa Valley Bank for sponsoring this event and providing us coffee this morning. So thank you very much, Brian and Chrissy. Couple things upcoming. We have the Chamber Navigator Awards on Friday, September 6th. That is a business awards for Chamber members in the community. There are tables and spots available. It's at the Steamboat Chamber from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. It's a really fun event. If you're interested in going and haven't before, I encourage you to go. And then on October 4th, we have the Thrive Women's Conference at the Grand as well. So 2 events coming up. So with that, I would like to introduce Kayleen Cohen with Mountain Dog Media. She is going to be going over Google Analytics this morning.
Thank you, Nick. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out this morning. I know it's early and I know it's chilly, and I know that data isn't quite the sexiest topic in the world, but we're going to try to make it fun, see if we can learn some cool stuff that you guys are going to take home, and you're going to be so excited. You're all going to be vigorously logging into your Google Analytics accounts and pulling up data and comparing date ranges. You're like, oh. So I hope you all leave here feeling pretty inspired and excited about collecting data on behalf of your business. So I've got my notes in case I forget what my name is. My name's Kayleen Cohen, and I'm the founder of Mountain Dog Media. We're a digital marketing agency based out of Steamboat Springs. We were founded down in Boulder. So about 6 years ago, going on 7 now, I was a full-time barista, and I was making lattes for a living after having double majored in English and journalism, and I felt like this was a total waste, a total flop for me. And I was like, I love to write, and I know how to design. Surely I can take these skills and I can help other business owners. And somebody whispered in my ear, hey, have you heard of search engine optimization? I said, say what? And I went home and I typed it in, search engine optimization. This is the art of manipulating our website content through keyword density to advantageously increase our rank in the search engine results. Well, that actually pairs really well with an English journalism background. And so that's when I started Mountain Dog Media, so that I could help business owners with my writing skills, and heck, it doesn't hurt to know how to use the Adobe Creative Suite either. So that was about 6.5 years ago when I started Mountain Dog Media down on the Front Range. We've been up in Steamboat for about 2 years now. And when it comes to the creative side of things, I love writing, I love designing, I've got that down all day. But when it comes to the data side of things, not so much. Maths and graphs and numbers, not really my thing, not really too much creative energy happening there. So compiling my end of the month reports for my clients was always a huge burden for me. It happened on the last day of the month. Suddenly I had to write 10 or 15 reports, and I'm combing through the data. I'm just like, ugh, this is awful. So it was a task I kind of dreaded. But alas, this is how I remain accountable for my clients, so I have to produce these reports, and the years are going by, and one day I'm combing through a Google Analytics account, putting things together, and I realize I don't actually hate this as much as I used to. This is actually kind of becoming fun in a weird way. I'm actually learning that I can interpret this data. It's kind of like cracking a code. If you guys ever played that game Mind Masters when you were younger, the more you spend time in your Google Analytics account, the more you can actually start to, for me, read it like text. I remember when I was a little kid growing up, I loved reading because I would say, it's like watching a movie. I can see it in my head. I don't see the words, I see the story. And now when I look at data, I feel the same way. I don't see the numbers, I actually see the story that the data is trying to tell me. So I don't hate end of the month report day nearly as much as I used to anymore, and I actually have quite a bit of fun pulling this data so that I can see, hey, is what I'm doing working? Can I be doing better? Is there something we need to adjust within the campaign? And I think that's really important, because when it comes to digital marketing, there are so many different channels that we can explore. It's hard to know, okay, well, I'm putting effort into my social, I'm blogging, I've got a newsletter. Is everything that I'm doing working? Is everything meaningful for the company that I'm representing right now? So that's what we're going to dive into today, is figuring out how to crack the code in Google Analytics. And so today we're talking about how to use our data to make decisions about our marketing strategies. And we're going to talk about 3 essential data categories here. We're going to talk about website traffic volume, which is going to tell us how many people are coming to our website. Volume, how many people are coming to our website. We're going to talk about traffic sources. So where are those people coming from? How did they end up on our website? And then we're going to talk about engagement statistics a little bit as well. So how are people interacting with our social media campaigns, our social media content, and how are they interacting with our newsletter campaigns? Now for these first 2 bullet points and for the majority of this conversation today, we're going to focus on Google Analytics. But Google Analytics isn't the only place to get data. If you have a Shopify site or you have a Squarespace site or even a WordPress site, there are plenty of other platforms that will serve this data to you. But what I've found in my years of experience is there's actually quite a bit of variance between those platforms. In my own personal experience, I've seen quite a bit of variance in what we see in the back end of Google Analytics compared to what we see in the back end of our Shopify accounts. So I would just caution you to choose one platform from which you choose your data, not to switch it up every month. So choose one platform and collect data from that platform consistently so that you can at least rely on the consistency of that platform. If you collect all your data in Google Analytics one month and then collect it all from the back end of your Shopify the next month, you might get some variances in that data that are going to skew your perception of those statistics. And certainly, I'm not saying Google Analytics is the best and 100% completely right. I like to trust it quite a lot, but I have heard people say, oh, I'd rather use blank platform. Totally fine. Just pick your platform and use that platform consistently so that your data isn't getting skewed by variances. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start by talking about website traffic volume. So, why on earth would we care about website traffic volume as business owners? Well, the answer might be obvious. In the world of business, more is more, right? We want more people coming through our doors. If we have a brick and mortar location, we want more people arriving on our website. If we are running an e-commerce operation or even if we're brick and mortar, more is more. We want more traffic. This is going to be the ultimate success metric of our digital marketing campaigns. So if you're putting effort into your digital marketing campaigns, you want more traffic. So you should be able to see an increasing trend in overall website traffic volume so that you can pat yourself on the back and say, oh, I did a really good job collecting all this, getting all this new traffic. So we're going to focus on 2 main screens in Google Analytics today, and there are like a bajillion million things you can look at in Google Analytics, but this is the stuff that I think you should look at on a monthly basis for your business. We're going to log into Google Analytics, and we're going to navigate from the left-hand side to audiences and overview. And hopefully, yeah, you can, this is a little pixelated, but you guys can mostly see what I'm looking at here. And this is the main dashboard that pops up when we look at our audience overview for traffic volume. So the most important thing that I want you to notice isn't actually any of this data, but it's the date range up at the top, August 16th to August 22nd. How many times have I logged into Google Analytics and collected a ton of data before I realized I had not set my date range to the correct date range, and then I needed to recollect all of that data? Let me save you that time right now. Check your date range as soon as you log into Google Analytics so that you can make sure that you're actually comparing the data for the period of time that you'd like to collect data for. I like to do this on the last day of the month and collect all the data for the entire month. You can do whatever you want. If you want to collect it on the 15th for the prior month, whatever your system is going to be, consistency is key here so that you know that you're collecting the data with a similar routine. And if you say, okay, I'm going to collect it once a month, make sure that that date range in the upper right-hand corner captures the month that you'd like to collect data for. You know what else is really cool is we can actually click on that date range and we can compare date ranges. So we can say, I'm going to compare this month to last month. I'm going to compare this week to last week. I'm going to compare this year to last year. You can compare all these different custom ranges ranges. And this is actually where you're going to have a lot of opportunities to figure out how your campaign efforts are going. If you launched a bunch of new search engine optimization efforts in the second quarter for your business, then you should be able to compare the second quarter to the first quarter and see an increase. And you should be able to compare the third quarter to the second quarter and see another increase. And if you don't, that's when you get to say to yourself, oh geez, what happened here? I'm not seeing the increases in the data that I should be seeing. So that date comparison, that date range comparison feature is just going to be enormously helpful for helping you decide, okay, how are my campaign efforts going? And it doesn't hurt at that point to kind of write down, all right, I started SEO in February. I launched a social media campaign in March, and that way you can start to compare and contrast the date range and see how effective your various campaigns are being. So don't forget about your date range. Next, the data. So we have this lovely graph here that's showing us our website traffic volume, in this instance over the course of a week. So pretty good, increasing traffic for this client over the course of the week. We sent a newsletter campaign on this day, so you can see that that caused an uptick in traffic, and then kind of an uptick in traffic for the rest of the week on that website, which is really nice after that newsletter campaign. So I love the graph here. Always look for your spikes and see if you can correlate a spike to a campaign effort. If there's a spike that you can't explain, really dig into that and see if it was referral traffic. Did someone talk about your company or your product on their website and that drove traffic over to you? What caused that darn spike? So always investigate your spikes, and for that matter, investigate your lulls as well. All right, so now we're going to dive into talking about this pile of numbers down here. This is a lot of important information that we need to pull out on a monthly basis, and I'm going to tell you what all of these different things mean. Because I have a feeling you've logged into Google Analytics before, maybe you've seen this, and you're like, well, that's interesting. Away I go. So we're going to start over here with the number of users that arrive on our website. Users are the human beings that visit our website during this date range. So for this client, we had 383 unique human beings that decided to visit this website. Okay, that's good. Good to be able to know what that's all about. Now, new users, that probably seems somewhat self-explanatory. Those are going to be the human beings that had never visited your website prior to this date range. So prior to this date range, they had never gone to www.yourwebsite.com. Now they have, they are new users. So 338 out of the 383 people that came here were new. And what's really cool about that, they actually split it out for us in this little pie graph over here. And you can't see the percentage numbers here because they're a little blurred out, but you can see that roughly this is a 3/4 slice of the pie and roughly a 1/4 slice of the pie for the amount of new visitors arriving on the website versus returning visitors. So if a new visitor is someone that has never visited our website prior to this date range, a returning visitor is someone that has visited our website prior to this date range and they're coming back. And that's obviously a great thing because we want people to come back. That means that our audience is actually engaged with our content, engaged with our subject. Maybe they're coming back to read blog posts month after month. They're coming back to take a second look at the products. That's actually really great. And what I like to try to strive for here in terms of a healthy ratio of new to returning, I like to shoot for roughly 75% new, 25% returning. So almost exactly what we're seeing right here. Because what that says to me is, all right, you're doing a good job repeatedly engaging members of your target audience and you're doing a great job driving cold audience members to your website. So that to me seems really healthy. If the percent of new visitors starts to overwhelm that and we're seeing maybe more than 85% new visitors, that says our content isn't repeatedly engaging our target audience members, which we really want. And what you can try to do to address that is, can you start blogging? Can you share authentic, engaging content? If you are blogging, could that content be more authentic and relevant to your audience? Could that content be published more frequently? So start thinking about ways that you can get returning visitors to come back to your website. Now, if your pie graph is going in the other way and you're starting to get, maybe 50% returning visitors, so your chart's turning half green, then you can say to yourself, well, I'm doing a great job repeatedly engaging target audience members, but I'm not doing a very great job driving new traffic to my website, and I really need a healthy density of both. So what you can do in that case, if you want to drive more new traffic to your website, think about boosting some of your posts on social media to reach cold audience members, or think about increasing your keyword density in your website content so that you can drive more people back to your website through search. So those are just a couple of the ideas that you can consider if you don't feel like your new to returning visitor pie chart is very healthy, okay? All right, so jumping back over here, sessions. This is a question, oh, not to skip your question, sorry. Question.
New users, that data comes from new devices or new email addresses. Where does that data come from, and how do we know it's not a different person using it on cell phone versus PC or
That's a great point. And Google Analytics is going to capture IP addresses. So if they see a new IP address, they're going to count that as a new user. So yeah, if you go and you open it up on your desktop computer at home, but then you go to the library and you look at it on a public computer or on your laptop, Google's going to think you're a new person. So that is going to affect the data a little bit. Any other questions about new versus returning? Fantastic. All right, so sessions, and this is kind of interesting. I think a lot of people get confused about the difference between sessions and users. So, and this kind of speaks to that question as well, actually. If we had 383 human beings, or users, that came to our website, but we had 452 sessions, well, that means that some of these 383 people came multiple times because we have more sessions. And that refers to, I opened my laptop and I went to your website and I looked around and then I went away, and a few days later I came back and I looked at your website. That's a second session. So we can actually get more sessions than we have users, and that's a good thing because that shows people coming back to our website. So we want to be happy when we see our sessions number larger than our users number. And that averages out right here. They average it out for us to an average of 1.18 sessions per user. Okay, so everybody's coming an average of once, really, but a few people are coming a few extra times. Page views is going to refer to the number of pages that were viewed on your website during that date range. I like to, this total number doesn't mean much to me, but what does mean a lot to me is actually this average pages per session right here. So our average pages per session for this client was actually 2.65. So what that means is these 383 people that visited the website 452 times looked at an average of 2.65 pages when they visited the website. And I'm actually pretty stoked on that. 2.65, we'll call it 2.5. That is great if your clients have the opportunity to convert within 2.5 pages. So you have to start to map the process on your website a little bit. Let's say, for example, a client arrives, they click on a blog post. That's page number 1, so they're on the blog post, they're reading the blog. Then they click on a product link in the blog post, that's page number 2, they're on the product page, and they add to cart, and they purchase that product and they go away. That's great. If they can do that in 2.5 pages, then I would not be concerned about an average of 2.65. However, if they have to click on your home page, click on a product page, click to learn more, add it to their cart, click all the way through the cart and check out, and that's a 6-page process, well then I would be pretty darn concerned about an average of 2.65. So what I would ask yourself here in this pages per session is how many pages does it take people to get to a checkout process or to convert? Maybe if you're a brick and mortar, they're only looking for your store hours, or they're only looking for your phone number, and they only need 1 page to do that in. Well, that's great. But if your conversion is buried pages and pages back into your user experience, then you need to monitor that pages per session and make sure that those numbers are heading towards each other in some regard, right? Now, average session duration, 1 minute and 15 seconds. This refers to the average amount of time that these 383 people spent on this website. Now, this one is going to concern me. 1 minute and 15 seconds per session, and again, that's an average, but I find it hard to believe that anyone's going to become convinced of your product's value in 1 minute and 15 seconds, right? They're probably going to need a much longer amount of time getting to know your product. And so that is one that I would flag for my client and say, how can we work on improving this? Do we need to add more text to the landing pages? Do we need to add better explanations of the services and the products? Do we need to go into more detail so that people can spend longer periods of time on the website getting to know the product before maybe they have the opportunity to convert within 2.5 pages? So those are numbers that I would definitely be looking at, comparing to the user experience on your website and say, is this realistic? Is this good enough for what I want people to be doing on my website? And then lastly, last but certainly not least, is going to be our bounce rate. And I think that this is the one that really deserves a lot of attention from people. Your bounce rate refers to the amount of people that leave your website without any interaction. They didn't do anything. They didn't read a word. They didn't click a button. They didn't do anything. They showed up and they said, nah, and they hit the back button and they left. Well, that's terrifying. And guess what? The industry average is 40 to 50%. So most websites are gonna have a bounce rate between 40 and 50%. 48% is obviously not really anything to scoff at. It's not in the trouble zone yet. When it starts rising up above 50%, that's really when you need to start evaluating your on-site experience and ask yourself, what is making these clients bounce? And so I'm gonna give you a few ideas on the next slide, because bounce rate is always something we have to look at. So here's a few options to consider if your bounce rate is above 50%. I'll jump back to you in just a second, Frank, thanks. Couple options. Do you have a strong call to action above the fold? So there's two pieces of lingo in there that I'll explain for you guys. A call to action, if you haven't been in any of my previous workshops, I talk about this in social media, I talk about it for newsletters, I talk about it for blogs, I talk about it for SEO. You're always gonna hear me talking about call to action, buttons and phrases. Things like shop now, learn more, click here. These are the things that, they're verbs. These are the verbs and the buttons that excite our users to take an action with us. They need to click, they need to read, they need to call, they need to learn more. Most people aren't gonna take that action step without a little bit of gentle prompting. So just go ahead and give them a little nudge, give them a call to action button. And then next, I'm referring to above the fold, because I'm a dinosaur and I love to refer to journalism terms that don't exist anymore. But above the fold is an old newspaper term that refers to, if this is my newspaper, above the fold is the area of the newspaper that's visible while it's sitting on the rack. So the name of the newspaper, the date, and the very first story, that story that appears above the fold, well, that is going to be their juiciest story. And so when I think about my website, above the fold means the area visible to me before I start scrolling. So it's basically the first 800 vertical pixels of your website, if you will. And so I think it is really important to have a strong call to action above the fold, because we're talking about reducing bounce rate here. So if we imagine that we have 4 seconds to engage somebody before they hit the back button and disappear, is there something there for them to click on with call to action text that really excites them? So if that is missing right now, that's something I would definitely consider adding. And if you still have a large bounce rate, is it something you can improve upon, is what I would ask yourself. Also above the fold, is your website navigation clear and helpful? That's a really big reason that people bounce. If they look at that navigation bar across the top and they have no idea where to click to find what they're looking for, they're gonna go away. People don't have that much patience. Maybe they're gonna click around a little bit, but definitely making a clear and helpful navigation is gonna be really important for keeping users on the website once they've arrived. Another great question, this actually is going to reflect all the way back to when you started brainstorming the campaign that got the traffic here in the first place. Are you driving the right target audience to your website? Imagine if you had an ad set up on social media where you're saying, you're going to love our monster trucks. We have the coolest monster trucks ever, vroom vroom monster trucks. And people click on it and they see Bean Babies. Well, every single person's going to hit the back button because they came looking for monster trucks. So always make sure that the way that you're advertising and promoting your website actually lines up with what people are going to see when they click on your website. So they're not like, oh, I'm in the wrong place, away I go. And this is actually really important. This is when a lot of people started developing pages specifically called lead pages. And maybe you've even heard of the software lead pages. They said, hey, I can't make my homepage match every single social media boost that I'm doing. So I'm going to make alternative homepages, fake landing pages, not the real landing pages, that specifically talk to the target audiences that I'm setting my ads up for so that they get engaged by that content and they don't disappear. So corresponding the content on the landing page with the message that you're sending in the promotional content is going to be really important to help drive down that bounce rate a little bit. And then lastly, is your website aesthetically modern and engaging? I will say, I hit the back button instantly if I think your website's garbage. As soon as I see something that looks like it was built in 1998, I'm like, well, I'm out of here, because I just don't have time for that in my busy modern life. And so I think you're going to be losing a lot of people if you failed to update that website and make it aesthetically modern and engaging. Frank, did you have a question about bounce rate?
No.
Okay.
About the time spent per.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
I take 3 to 2 times 1.18. That's 450 minutes spent by 302 users.
Cool.
Now, averages can be misleading, and hence we have mean times as opposed to average times.
Okay. Yep.
Does Google, what I really want to know is the bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
If 5 people spent 10 minutes, that could skew your averages significantly.
Yeah.
If 10 people spend a half an hour, that could skew your averages significantly.
Yeah.
Does Google calculate that?
So it's not going to break it out quite to that level of detail, but what I can look at that will help me answer that question is what the average session duration was per website traffic source. And so in this next slide here, we're going to start talking about figuring out where did the website traffic come from. And if we can see that the average is 10 minutes for people coming from social media, but it's 30 seconds for people coming from organic search, well, then we can start to make some conclusions like, wow, the people that are reading my meta title and meta description on those search page results are getting a different impression of my brand. As soon as they arrive, they're saying, oh, this isn't really what I came for, and they're hitting the back button. Versus people that came via social media that are maybe clicking on a blog link that are there to read that blog. So what we can do is look at the average session duration by traffic source and try to use that to help make assumptions. Yeah.
Second question. I'll use the term dwell return.
Mm-hmm.
I made it up. Dwell return means when I go to Amazon, for 30 seconds. See what I type in my identifier, I find it, I look at it, the price, and I close it.
Mm-hmm.
72 hours later, I come back and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dwell return. I shot there for 30 seconds, I came back and I bought it. I never buy anything on the first hit.
Okay.
I go to Craigslist, I go to eBay, I go to Google, blah, blah, blah. If I'm happy with Amazon, then I pull the trigger and I make the buy.
Yeah.
Do you have does Google measure dwell return, any kind of way to pick up of the 382 people that came for the first time? 20% came back and did something.
Yeah.
A number, whatever.
Yeah.
I'd like to know why did they come back?
Yeah.
In other words, what page did they go to? What was the first magnet that drew them? What was the second magnet that made them buy? Does Google do that?
So there's going to be a couple different ways that we can try to look at that. So in that scenario that you just described, let's assume that you did all of that on the same laptop machine. So when you come back, you're tracked as a returning visitor. And now we get to see, so Google is going to track conversions for us. And a conversion, most of the time in an e-commerce instance, is going to refer to a sale. So somebody converted and they became a sale. If you have a brick and mortar company, or a conversion for you is actually a phone call or somebody walking through the door, Google actually does have tracking codes for setting stuff like that up. Obviously, you're going to be manually tracking how many people walk through your door. Nobody from Google is standing in the entryway marking that down. But what we can start to do is look at the percent of conversions coming from new visitors and the percent of conversions coming from returning visitors, and start to make some assumptions about that dwell or that process. We can also look at the conversions by source, and then Google also gives us a complete breakout of what pages people arrived on and which ones they left on. And we're not even gonna get into that today because I consider that kind of like advanced, and we're just gonna talk about the bare bones fundamentals of what we should be collecting on a monthly basis. But if you really wanted to dive in and say, where do I lose the majority of my people? Where do I gain the majority of my people? That information is in the behavior section of Google Analytics and can be very, very informative. All right, any other questions about website traffic volume before we go on and talk about sources, where all these fun guys came from? Yeah, Sarah.
When it talks about returning users, is that returning within that time frame that you set, or is it returning period, like if they've ever returned?
Great question. It's returning period. So it's saying, yes, these are people that have been to your website before, because new means they have not been there within that date range, or they've never been there prior to that date range. Returning means they have been there during that date range or prior to that date range, which is great. So when I go to Altitude Snacks 50 times a month, I'm gonna show up as a returning user every single time, because they're like, well, you're here all the time. Welcome back. Any other questions about volume? I love traffic sources. So volume's all well and good. It's going to be great broad strokes about how, in general, is the campaign working? Are my campaigns working? Maggie?
So can you get a volume on each page?
You can, yeah. So
you can see for your home page and then for your side pages.
yeah, and that's really great to look at. See what your most popular pages are. It'll give you a report of your 10 most popular pages. You should always be aware of what that is, because sometimes it's not what you were expecting. I was just doing a marketing consult with one of my clients, and we were looking at this together. And I said, you know what I see that's kind of interesting here is that actually you get 3 times the amount of traffic and entries to your about page, not your home page. You've out-optimized your own homepage with your about page. So your about page is ranking higher than your homepage right now, and people are clicking on that more often than they're clicking on your homepage, which is fine. At least they're ending up on your website. But what you need to consider is, well, have I crafted my about page as a good entry point for these users? If somebody's showing up here that hasn't seen the homepage, am I doing a good enough job explaining what my product is, what my company is? Am I welcoming them? Is there a call to action above the fold? Is the navigation clear? Do I have good call to actions to my services or my products from there? And so if you do identify that the majority of your traffic is arriving somewhere else and not your homepage, you want to treat that page as if it was a homepage and address that user experience and make sure it's really concise, clear, and helpful for everybody that's ending up there. Now let's figure out where they all came from. So this is my favorite part of pulling the end of the month reports, is looking at this pie graph right here that shows us from our navigation. This is going to be acquisition overview. This is going to break all of the traffic that arrived on our website into 4 main categories. And each of these really means something kind of different. So I'm going to dive into each. Direct traffic, represented here in blue, refers to the people that typed your URL into their browser. Let's think about how cool that is. You have done effective enough marketing that people are aware enough of your brand that they typed www.yourbrand.com into their browser. So I love direct traffic, because that means that people are actually aware of your brand, your name, your URL. That is cool. Yay, direct traffic. This means that the traffic that's arriving here, I like to break audiences into 2 essential categories: cold and warm. Cold leads are people that have never heard of us, never, ever, ever before. They've never heard of us. And warm leads, well, they've heard of us. They're lukewarm. And so if we think about, we want strategies to drive cold and warm traffic to our website, it's nice to think about how each of these categories provides that. So direct, anybody that's typing your URL straight into their browser, they are hot, because they know your brand, they typed it in. That is a hot lead. That is very exciting. Next, social media, in green here, pretty straightforward. Those are all your leads that are coming from social media. Now this is just awesome. Bragging rights here for a second, because the industry average is 7% of your website traffic arriving via social media, and we're driving 27% of this website traffic via social media right now. So, woo! Definitely, if you're putting any effort into social media, you want to see traffic coming via social. If you're putting 10 hours a month into your social media and 1% of your traffic is arriving via social, then you should ask yourself, do I need to improve the call to actions in my posts? Do I need more promotional posts? Do I need more boosted posts? How am I going to actually drive this traffic from social media back to my website? What's the room for improvement here? So those leads are going to be mostly pretty lukewarm too. Maybe coolish. We're going to get some warm and cool leads from social media, depending on how we're doing that. Next, organic search. So these are users that typed a phrase into the Google search results, or Yahoo, or whatever search browser they're using, Google for the case of this talk, I guess. They typed in best bananas in the world, and they clicked on your website because you sell the best bananas in the world. Well, they didn't know that you existed prior to 2 seconds ago, so they're a cold lead, and they came through organic search. Now they're on your website. This is a great, beautiful thing. We definitely want to be driving a hearty amount of our traffic via organic search so that we know that we're getting a mix of new audience members. If you're not driving any traffic via organic search, or you want to increase the amount of traffic you're driving via organic search, this is a great time to think about your keyword density. So this is a great time for content marketing. Shoot back to my talk from a couple months ago where we talked about researching keywords and implementing keywords into your landing page copy and blog copy to help increase traffic via organic search. Now, the other way that people can come to us via organic search is potentially some of our direct traffic that's a little confused. So some people don't totally know how browsers work. I'm sure some of you in here still do this, where you don't type www.yourwebsite.com into the browser. You type it into a Google search box and then you click on it. That's fine, I'm not judging you, but you are going to show up as organic search traffic in the back end of that Google Analytics site. So sometimes that's a mix of cold and warm audience leads coming through that organic search traffic. Lastly, referral traffic is super cool and interesting and can be a spot of some confusion. So referral traffic, shown here in yellow, refers to all the traffic that comes to you from a third-party source. So somebody does a review of your product on their website and includes a link back to your website. Somebody clicks on that link, well, they came to you through www.somebodyelseswebsite.com, and now they're on your website. That makes them referral traffic. But you know where this gets a little bit muddy? And in this specific case, I clicked in to take a closer look at this referral traffic. So I said, really? 16%? Really? Where's all that coming from? And it turns out a ton of it is coming from our MailChimp campaigns, and some of it's coming through Linktree, which is the software, a little plugin that we use to actually redirect clicks from Instagram back to our website. So where this referral bucket can get a little confusing is sometimes some of your newsletter traffic is going to end up in there. Sometimes some of your social media traffic is going to end up in there too. So it's always worth clicking in. Everything in Google, you can just click and get further and further and deeper into it. And so the further you go into that referral traffic, you can start to see, oh, geez, actually 50% of this should be social media traffic. So that can kind of help you understand looking at where all that referral traffic might have come from. Now, you can get this graph to become a lot more detailed the more you program into Google Analytics. So this is what's going to show up by default, but you can actually tell Google Analytics, hey, I have a MailChimp account. Can you start putting all that MailChimp traffic in its own category called email, please? And it'll start doing that for you. So some of you might already have a version of this that's broken out into a higher level of detail, but this is the basic 4 categories that are automatically going to appear by default in everybody's Google Analytics. So this is honestly where I feel like you have the best potential to determine how effective your different marketing campaign strategies are being. Because if you started a social media strategy, you should see an increase in the traffic arriving via social. If you're running a content marketing strategy, you should see an increase in the traffic arriving via organic search. If you're out there doing tons and tons of in-person networking, you should see more traffic arriving via direct. And so this is a great opportunity to say, what am I doing, and can I see the results of that here? So I've got some ideas for you guys. Remember those 4 categories that we were just looking at? If you feel like you have room for improvement in any or all 4 of those categories, here's some free ideas for you. If you need to increase your traffic arriving via social media, how about you improve/increase your post call to actions? Hey, there's that word again. I love call to actions. So are you including really strong call to action text like click here to learn more, click here to subscribe, buy now, sign up today, whatever it is? Are you putting strong call to actions in the text of your posts? Next, improve blog content, because that's a great way to get people to click from our social media back to our website. We say, dear social media subscribers, I really thought that you would enjoy this 500-word article on this thing you're absolutely fascinated by because I know you so well. Click here to read this blog post. Boom, they've clicked, they're back on your website. So that's 2 ideas for increasing traffic via social, call to actions, juicy content for them to click on. If you're trying to increase traffic via organic search, why don't you work on improving that keyword density? That is something, we've got a whole 1-hour talk online about improving keyword density. You should know your target keywords. You should be striving for a keyword density between 3 and 5%. That is called content marketing. So content marketing, keyword density, those are going to be the tickets to success if you're trying to increase traffic to your website via organic search. If you're trying to bring more referral traffic, this is a fun one, a rarely explored category. But if you want to increase traffic via referral, think about guest blogging for other websites. And this is something I love to do for my clients because there are great returns. If you have a product, let's say you make the best sleeping bag in the world, and you reach out to 10 backpacking websites that have thousands of subscribers, and you say, let me send you this article about my best sleeping bag in the world and how I slept in the Antarctic and it was so comfortable and I snoozied and had the best dreams ever. If you get all those people to publish that article on their website, which they're like, yay, free content, why not? Now you get to drive some referral traffic back to your website with that guest blog. Guest blogging, tons of fun. Press releases and product reviews are also great ways to get people to include links to your product on their website. So if press releases in this day and age, we could go way into this, but it's basically just a search engine optimization tool. It is far more likely that that press release is going to sit on the internet and have SEO value for you than it's actually going to get picked up by a media outlet. So they still have value, and mostly it's SEO value these days. And then lastly, if you're trying to increase direct traffic, I recommend doing this with in-person networking opportunities because, again, you're just making yourself more top of mind for people. More people are thinking of your brand, so they're going to type that into their browser and go check it out. And then also email marketing is a great way to get some direct traffic heading over to your website as well. Robbie?
For social media increasing traffic or call to actions, where do you put your call to action for Instagram?
Fantastic. It's going to be in the text of my post caption. So the question, in case some of you guys didn't hear that, was in a social media post, where do you include the call to action? I just had a client yesterday ask me, will this button be clickable? Because it's a little designed graphic, it's got a little button in it. No, the button's not going to be clickable. I'm sorry, it's a static social media post. So where we have to include that call to action is going to be in the post caption. So if you say,
That's not
it's not clickable. So that's why it has to be a strong call to action. Often in Instagram, it's going to be link in bio. It's going to be like, sign up for our newsletter today, link in bio. Learn more about this fabulous product, link in bio. Register now for our upcoming event, link in bio. So it's going to be a text call to action in the case of Instagram. Yes?
What does that mean? I see that all the time.
Yeah, fantastic. That's such a good question. So, Instagram, what a beautiful thing. Instagram did this mean, terrible thing to everybody attempting to advertise anything. And they said, you can only have one clickable link, one link to rule them all in Instagram. And so in Facebook, we can write a post. We could say, hey, I just thought you guys would like to know about this cool thing. Check it out at www.coolthing.com. And that link is clickable. But in Instagram, we can't include clickable links in our captions. As you might have seen when you're reading along, it says, hey, go check out this cool thing, link in bio. And what that means is there's only one clickable link in the whole Instagram world, and it's actually the one link that appears in our bio on our profile page. So usually that's going to be a link back to our homepage, maybe a link to an upcoming event. So let's say it's a home style magazine on Instagram, and you're like scrolling through their feed and they've got this beautiful picture. If you want to buy this couch and put it in your house, link in bio. So you say, okay, I'm going to click on their profile picture. Now I'm on their profile page and I'm going to look for that one clickable link in their bio, and that's going to take me to where I'm trying to go. So it's a little bit of a goose chase, but that's what we unfortunately are up against right now in Instagram, because we can't have clickable links in those post captions.
Do you find that successful?
I'm sure there's a massive drop-off. It's impossible to know what that drop-off is, how many people actually do clickety-click their way all the way through that link in bio. Probably half the amount of people that would click it if it was a clickable link right there in the bottom of the post. Yeah. That's what we're up against. Another question?
Yeah, do you recommend we use a third party to manage our link in bio so we can have fundraising, apply, things like that?
I do. I use Linktree.
What we have a page on our website that has all, that functions as that third party.
Fantastic.
Is that a better way to do it?
That would be a great way to do it, because all that data would get captured in your Google Analytics, and so you'd be able to see how many people land on that page, how many people click on those buttons and keep moving through your website, versus I use a solution called Linktree that's a third-party solution, and so we lose that data for that step. Now we just get to see the people that actually clicked on that button and head over to our website. So if you do have a page on your own website with those buttons set up, that's fantastic. Any other questions about traffic by source? It's almost 9 o'clock. I'm sorry, people. I'll try to cruise through the rest of this. Luckily, that was most of the really nitty-gritty stuff. But this is also really important information that I want you to be capturing on a monthly basis, okay? This is no longer going to be in Google Analytics, so it is now up to you to decide where you're going to stream this information from. I use a social media scheduling software called Hootsuite that will deliver this information to me on a monthly basis. So anything that you're using to schedule your social media posts or track your social media posts, if you're using Later app or you're using Hootsuite or you're using Sprout Social, this is some of the data that it's worthwhile to collect. It's good to know what our followers are on all of our platforms. Obviously, if you don't have a Twitter, ignore the Twitter. This is just for the platforms that you're using. I want you to capture followers and engagements. Engagements refers to likes, comments, and shares. So this is going to show us how much people were actually engaged with our content during that month. And so tracking our followers so we can see, okay, followers are growing at a steady rate or they're not, whether or not you need to improve there. And then engagements. So for example, and I made all these numbers up, but for example, let's say we saw this growth on Facebook from 12.5 to 12.7 between March and April, but we saw a downturn in engagements. So that tells me I need to look at my post call to actions, and all that stuff that makes my content juicy and fun for the people that are engaging with it. So looking at this at a month-by-month basis and saying, am I growing my accounts the way I want them to be growing? Is the engagement on track with that as well? And do I have room for improvement? And I noted at the bottom there to review your top posts filtered by likes, comments, and shares. And again, I do this on Hootsuite, but even if you just do it manually by scrolling through your Instagram feed and asking yourself which post received the most likes this month, and ask yourself, what was it about this post that made people so inclined to engage with it? Did it have a friendly face? Did it have a cute dog? Was it the caption? Did it have a strong call to action? What was it that made people like this one more than everything else I posted this month? Same by comments. What was your most commented upon post this last month? What made people want to comment on it? Did you ask a question? Were you running a giveaway? Was it controversial? Did somebody else comment and start a conversation? And ask yourself, how can you replicate that in campaigns moving forward? Same with shares. What made people want to share this? Was it actionable for my community? Was it a super educational piece? So start asking yourself, what made your top posts, and how can you recreate that in your campaigns moving forward? If you've been to my social media workshop, or if you want to watch it online later, I'm going to talk a lot about editorial categories. And so I like to kind of streamline and make a template for myself when I create my social media posts. Well, if I find out that one of those editorial categories is just garbage, I can scrap it. And if I find out that people just religiously love one of those, I can increase the density of that category in my editorial schedule. So it's worth it to track your follows, your engagements, and review all those top posts on a monthly basis for your social media platforms. Next, I want to do the same thing for my newsletter. If you're running a newsletter, we want to be capturing this information as well. How many subscribers did your newsletter send to? What was the open rate? So what percentage of those subscribers opened your campaign? How many opens was that? Those two numbers kind of go together, but I like to see how many opens really was that. And then how many link clicks did that campaign receive? And the two most important things to note is monitor how your subject line affects your open rate, because I promise you it will. I promise your subject line dramatically affects your open rate. And so looking at, okay, well, so let's say, for example, we got, oh my gosh, we got a 26% open rate in April compared to 15 and 18 as being kind of our averages, and we got 328 clicks. Holy cow, that was a killer subject line. What was that subject line, and how can I recreate that formula moving forward? Versus this one, probably want to steer clear of subject lines reminiscent of whatever I sent out in May. And also looking on a monthly basis at which links get the most clicks. If everybody's clicking on your blog links, but they're not clicking on your product links, what can you do differently? If everybody's clicking on your promo for your social media and nobody's clicking on your, your sign up links, what can we do differently? So just taking a look at what everybody is clicking on. If they are clicking on your product promotions, fantastic. Can you make that a regular part of your template, for example? Okay, so both of those pieces of information, both the social media engagement stats and the newsletter engagement stats, again, those are coming from whatever platform you're choosing to use for those mediums. They're not coming from Google Analytics anymore. So I record all of this data for all of my clients on a monthly basis in a little document that I call the dashboard. And I have them, everything that we just went through, organized in column A, and I track it month after month, ongoing, so that I can see what positive trends and negative trends are happening within my campaign. Now, I figured you guys are all pretty busy, so I created the template and made it available for you to download at mountaindogmedia.com/resources for a whole 99 cents. So for a whole 99 cents, you can download this template. It's a CSV file. You can open it up in anything you use to edit spreadsheets, and you can start capturing this data on a monthly basis, or you can build the spreadsheet for yourself. So it's completely up to you. If you want a ready to rock and roll version, you can go grab that at mountaindogmedia.com/resources. I highly recommend, once you create this spreadsheet for yourself, that you set a corresponding calendar reminder for whatever day of the month it's going to be. Pick a day, that's your data day. Let that calendar reminder go off and collect all your data consistently from the same platform, same day of the month. Pop it all in there, spend some time thinking about it. That's your action item from today's meeting, is to start this dashboard wherever you're going to manage it and create that calendar reminder so that you can start collecting that data on a monthly basis and asking yourself how your campaigns are going. If you're a Mountain Dog Media client, that already exists for you. Yay! I've got a few more resources for you guys. So again, all my previous workshops are up at mountaindogmedia.com/resources. If you want to learn a little bit more about SEO and content marketing, I highly suggest that you check out Moz.com, their blog. Also copyblogger.com, great resource for content marketing. For social media, check out socialmediaexaminer.com. And then one other one I have to share with you guys is mountaincareers.com. If you guys are looking for freelance opportunities or you have jobs that you'll be posting, mountaincareers.com is a great resource for this, and they also have some educational resources as well. So this is a project coming out of Vail, Colorado, looking to create more opportunities in the mountain towns for specialized workers. So I highly recommend that you follow them, subscribe to their newsletter, post your jobs, get jobs, and read their resources. Lastly, I've got two more workshops coming up in the next couple months here. If you're going to be down in Denver on October 2nd, I'll be speaking at Freelance Business Week Denver. This one is actually going to be on mental health for hustlers. So I am really excited to talk about that topic with a bunch of freelancers down in Denver. And then we are going to be hosting a Steamboat Startup Weekend, November 15th through 17th. This is like on the DL still. The details are not completely out for this yet, but I am helping to organize this event. So if you stay up to date on my email list, I will give you more information about when Steamboat Startup Weekend is coming to fruition and how you can get involved in that. If you didn't sign in when you came in, please sign in. I only will email you when I have very legitimate updates such as future workshops and resources that I genuinely think you might want. So go ahead and sign in if you didn't. Please let me know if you have questions about any of this. I do offer 1-hour free consultations for new clients. I offer blog, social media, and newsletter campaign packages for small businesses, and I do marketing consulting. So anything that we can find to be a good fit for you, would love to talk any of you through all of this in like way more detail specific to your business. So thank you so much. Happy Tuesday morning. Awesome. Gonna show